I went to one of the best schools in the entire UK and took the hardest A level you could take, which was A level further maths. One day, the further maths department brought in everyone who took the subject because this year people were getting lower than the previous year. They basically said, if you want to do well in further maths, you have to be prepared to work and revise hard. That one phrase stuck with me throughout the entire year, even after I got the result, because I realized that I actually didn't know what working hard meant. Maybe it meant working long hours or working towards that goal, but I couldn't put into words what working hard towards a subject actually meant, because I knew people who looked like they weren't working hard. They looked like they were playing Brawl Stars in further maths class. They looked like they weren't doing that much work, but they got insane results in this subject. But I also knew people who looked like they were doing a lot of work. They would always obsess over this one subject, but they wouldn't get good results in the actual exams. Now, after reading and obsessing over productivity and obsessing over self-help, I finally realized what working hard, especially in intellectual work, actually means. And in this video, I'm going to be laying out to you why you should work like a lion and not a mule when it comes to working intellectually. Before I get into that, if you don't know my story, I used to be very fat. I couldn't read and I used to get pretty low grades in school. However, I went through a massive transformation in both my productivity and fitness, and now go to one of the best universities in the world, UCL, and went to one of the best sixth forms in my A levels, got some of the best results in GCSEs and A levels, and also I'm pretty jacked right now. So if you want to go through a similar transformation in both your productivity and fitness, click on the subscribe button down below. The old definition of hard work. One day I was preparing for my 11 plus exams. So 11 plus exams are an exam that people in like 6th grade, year 6 do to get into grammar schools. And I had like Indian parents, so they wanted me to get into this one school because it was very, very good. And I remember one day, like, I just didn't do the work for like my like tuition for that exam. So I didn't do the past paper that my tutor set me. And my mom came into my room and she was like really angry and everything. And she said that if you aren't tired after the day, if you aren't tired after working, you're not doing it correctly. Fast forward like 5-6 years, I've read books like Deep Work and I've read like productivity books. And actually that mindset of working longer for better results isn't true for intellectual work. Now, a lot of what I'm going to say in this video kind of challenges the common perception of working hard, but trust me, I've done enough research to support this. I've done enough trial and error. I've read as many books, as many productivity books that I'll link down below. And I can promise you that if you work longer hours, it doesn't mean you're going to get better results in whatever goal you have. This mindset of working longer to get better results actually stems from the industrial age. So remember when 2-3 generations before, us as a society used to be factory workers. So like in the industrial age, people used to do very physically hard jobs. Maybe your grandparents or their grandparents or their parents were doing these kind of like physical jobs where they got paid on an hourly basis. They got paid on how much they could move and how much they could, I don't know, like make in the factory or whatever, or how many boxes they could move around. In this one scenario, if you worked a longer amount of hours, if you lifted more stuff, you would get paid more in that job. However, in the age of intellectual work, if you work more hours, it actually guarantees you less results. Especially if you're in an immigrant household or if you have like older generation parents. They think that hard work or like producing more, getting better results is correlated to the amount of hours you work. So if you think about millionaires, I'm not saying I'm a millionaire or like I know any millionaires, but if you think about people who have made millions and millions of dollars, you think that their success or their result is correlated to the hours they worked. However, people like Iman Gadzhi, who's like a billionaire or a multi-millionaire, and like millionaires like that, contradict that because they say they've only worked a couple of hours but done that consistently. Even if you look at people who do A levels or like students, top students, if you go ask them their, like I'm not just talking about like the A star like normal students, I'm talking about people who are like genuinely insanely cracked, people who get such good results you question whether they're like a genius or whatever. So I knew this person who got 5 A stars in his A levels. This is like, most people take 3, I took 3, But this guy took 5 A levels and got all A stars and got into Cambridge. And I asked him about his like work schedule, and he said he did 2 hours of revision per day. This broke my mindset because I knew everyone around me was doing like 8 hours or was doing 8 hours of revision consistently per day towards that goal. Do you see how hard work in terms of like intellectual work doesn't correlate to the amount of hours worked? It correlates to something different, which I'm going to be explaining in this video. But that's the first perception. This is the first mindset that I want you to destroy, that if you want to get higher results in either your business or like your university grades or GCSEs, A levels, it doesn't mean you have to work a longer amount of hours. It means you have to work in a specific type of way that I'm going to be getting into. The age of intellectual work. So now we've discussed the hard work or results in a particular goal doesn't correlate to the amount of hours you work in that. The best way to explain this is through the lion versus the mule analogy that the title of this video is. A mule is like a donkey, by the way, if you don't know what a mule was. So if you think about a lion to catch its prey, all it does is it rests all day, and then when it sees its prey, it gets up, runs, sprints for about, like 5 minutes, catches the prey, eats the prey, and then just goes back to resting. If you think about the mule, if the mule has to catch, it's not like a predator or whatever, but like just think about this, right? A mule kind of like just slowly walks, like carries the passenger. If it had to go catch like some animal, it would still walk, but for longer amount of hours. And this isn't like a perfect analogy, but what I want to drill with you is the intensity of these two animals' work. For the lion, it is 100% intense during its chase, during the time it's going to catch the animal. It is so intense. It's going full speed, sprinting, no distractions, just concentrating on this one thing. And then it catches it and then it rests the entire day. However, the mule, it's kind of like distracted, looking around, but it just does like work, not really like maybe 20% intensity. That's how much like walking takes up, but it's kind of distracted, but it does it for a longer amount of hours. The best way to work is like the lion. You want to decrease your work hours, but have intense periods of time where you're just focused, like insanely hyper focused. This particular type of work is called deep work, by the way. To put this tangibly, I would do, like, if I'm revising for something like A-level maths, if I'm a student, right, I would do 90 minutes of work, like super high intense work with no distractions, completely hyper focused on this one thing, 90 minutes, and then just rest for the entire day. That 2 hours of 100% intensity is better than an 8-hour, 10-hour study session. I know this is crazy to like think about, and it kind of destroys your perception, but I guarantee you this is how intellectual work works. You don't want to increase the hours, you increase the intensity or the quality of work in those hours to get better results. So I know what you're thinking, like you're thinking, oh, but why can't I do those 8 hours? Why can't I do 6 hours with 100% intensity? But I guarantee you that is not how it works. As soon as you start increasing your work hours more than about 2 to 3 hours, your intensity will fall. It's been proven. You can only do up to 4 hours of deep work per day. And that is like, those are like top performers. Those are like the CEOs, the billionaire CEOs, like the absolute top of the productivity like totem pole that can do 4 hours of deep work consistently. Us, we're probably young people, right? My demographic is between 16 to 24 years old. We can't do 4 hours, anything more than 4 hours, or maybe even like anything more than 3 hours of deep work consistently every single day. If you think that you can revise for 6 hours per day, it's not 100% intensity. You're compromising on the intensity of the work session. And that's why, like, you see people who only do a few hours per day, but those like hours that they do, like the 2 to 3 hours they do is 100% intense. They do deep work. They're insanely focused on one thing, on the highest ROI task, and therefore they get more results in that like one goal than the person who does 8 hours a day, or like 6 hours of revision a day, or like 6 hours of work a day. And of course, like, it sounds cool, like if you say online that I work 8 hours a day, or if you tell your friends that I do 8 hours of revision per day, it sounds really cool. You sound really disciplined and everything. That's not actually how you should work. So the way I like to explain this is there's like 3 levels of productivity. When I was back when I was fat, there was the people who didn't even know they wanted to go. So I didn't even want to get good grades, to be honest with you. I didn't really want to go to the gym, and therefore I would only do like 20 minutes of revision per day. I wouldn't revise at all, right? I wouldn't do any sort of intellectual work. I would just like scroll and like consume content and then like eat food the entire day, and therefore I got bad grades at school. Then I started consuming productivity content and everything. I started watching people like Ali Abdaal, and I knew that I wanted to get good grades in school. I wanted to be good at working. That is level one. I want to have this desire. I want to do the good grades. And most people at this point, they have the motivation to do work. And therefore, because they don't understand that results are not correlated to the amount of hours they work, they try to revise for 10 hours a day. This happened to me back in year 12 or 13, I think, like last year or the year before. I said I wanted to do 10 hours of work per day for between the half term for my subjects. But of course, like, it was so weird because I declined in that period of time. I didn't get more work done. I actually got less work done, and my results kind of decreased in that 1 week. And that's level, like, that's the first level. Now you know that you want to have, like, you want the grade, but you now work the entire day because you think that you're being really productive. And like, the worst part of this is you actually get better results than if you just didn't work, right? So of course, like, if you do some work, you're gonna get some results. But that is not like the maximum you can get. That's only level one. Level one is not wanting to go. Level two is like this. Level three is now you want to get the goal, but you now understand that working long hours isn't the most optimal for your results. You understand that it's the intensity and consistency of that intensity that will get you the results. So only working a few hours per day, but 100% intensity, doing deep work in those sessions will get you so much better than the people who revise 10 hours a day. And therefore you only do a few amounts of hours per day consistently in a predictable set of work hours, and therefore get exponential results. This, like, it's so contrary to common belief. Like, what I'm saying is so contrary to common belief, but I guarantee you that this does work. I remember like, something weird happened to me in my A levels where I was waking up early and doing 2 to 3 hours per day. But then I was like, okay, no, now it's getting serious. Now I have my A level exams and everything, so therefore I have to work longer hours. But then I went from an A star. I went from getting nearly 100% in every single A level subject. Like, imagine that. That is insane. In my mock exams, I nearly got 100% in every single subject I took. That is unheard of for your A levels. But then I declined in my A level grades because I increased my workload. So I was doing if you've seen my day in the life routine, I made videos like that, and I was consistently doing 2 to 3 hours of work in the morning before school. That was literally the only thing I was doing. However, I had this weird belief that, okay, now it's getting serious. Now I have to actually lock in for my A-level exams. So now I'm going to quit going to the gym. I'm going to quit seeing my friends. And instead, I'm going to work for 10 hours or like 6 hours per day. But then my results declined. Do you see how weird this is? Like I still got good results. I still got into a very good university, but I could have gotten better results if I just kept to that one technique and one productivity tactic. So what I want to drill into you is that having a few hours, 2 to 3 hours, where you concentrate on the right work, if you eat the frog, if you do the correct highest ROI work towards your goal, and you do that consistently, especially in the morning, and you develop that habit, you will get exponential results. I could have nearly gotten 100% in every single A. Like, I know that sounds crazy to say, and I kind of sound like a bit of a mug saying, oh, like, I could have done this when I didn't actually get that. But I guarantee you that, like, it was tangible for me to get nearly 100% in every single A-level exam if I worked for 2 to 3 hours per day. And I want you to get the same results in whatever goal you have, whether this be university, building a business, GCSEs, A-level. You can get the exponential results in that goal if you just wake up early and do 2 to 3 hours of work, of deep work per day. And that's why me and my team created this productivity community. Basically, in this community, we will guarantee that you wake up every single day and do a few hours of deep work consistently in the morning, around like 5 to 6 a.m. It will, once you implement the systems in this community, you have like accountability, you have like a leaderboard and everything. Once you implement the systems in this community, it will feel effortless to wake up early and do deep work consistently before your work or school, and therefore you'll get that exponential results in whatever goal you set. Please draw this into your mind that revising all day, revising like a mule, is a good thing. It's better than most people. However, to really lock in, to really get those top results in the goal that you have, you want to decrease your work hours and increase the intensity of those work hours. You want to do deep work. I have a full guide to deep work, but you want to do that kind of work where you're intense, no distractions, working on the correct thing. The compound effect. So now we understand that doing a couple of hours of deep work, deep concentrated work towards our goal is infinitely better than doing a lot of hours of lower intensity towards our goals. Now I'm going to be going over a concept called the compound effect, which is coined by this guy named Dan Hardy. He wrote a book called The Compound Effect as well. I would recommend you go check that out as well. That's a very good book in this subject of productivity. However, if you do a consistent amount of work per day, you think that the results are linear. For example, if I do 1 to 2 hours of work pretty consistently, I'm going to get the same result as doing 1 to 2 hours in that work. I know this is like weird to explain, but the graph, you think the graph looks like that. If I do a couple of hours of work consistently per day, the result will look like that. So I'm going to get a linear amount of result. That isn't true. The compound effect basically states that if you do a small amount of work, but very consistently, at the same amount of time per day, like preferably at the same amount of time per day, the results are exponential. So the results look like that. In any part of life, you can see this flesh out. If you think about, let's take A-levels. So A-levels are the exams that you do when you're 18 years old in the UK. The person that does 5 A-levels and gets 5 A stars probably did around 2 to 3 hours, but consistently in that. And therefore, like at first, it doesn't seem like anything's happening. If you just do 2 hours consistently, if you do that like every single day, it doesn't actually seem like anything's happening at first, but the results are then exponential. It's the same way how if you go to the gym consistently, you're not going to see any results for the first 2 to 3 weeks, but then randomly you're going to see like an exponential amount of results, like by seeing that you're like randomly jacked one day. You know what I mean? Like nothing happens and then everything happens at once. And this happens when you do a consistent amount of work per day consistently. For this YouTube channel as well, I gained like little to no subscribers for about the first 5 to 10 videos, and then on my 11th video I gained 1,000 subscribers in literally like one day. You can see the compound effect play out in like every single area of life. And when you work like a mule, when you try to work 6 to 10 hours per day in whatever goal you have, you're not allowing the compound effect to take place, because the compound effect requires consistency. You cannot do 6 hours, 8 hours of work consistently. Like I guarantee that. I can do 2 to 3 hours in the morning before everyone wakes up very consistently. And even when it's like the holidays, even when I don't have exams, I've now developed the system to do this without really thinking. It feels effortless to me to just wake up in the morning and do some work. However, if you try to do the 6 to 8 hours work days every single day, realistically, you're not going to do that very consistently. So therefore, the compound effect will never take place, and the person who's done this, the person who's done a little bit of work over time will get the exponential results. But if you work a longer period of time but unsustainably, you're not going to get the same amount of results as the person who's worked a shorter amount of time but very consistently. It's this weird thing where people are going to take this advice and think that they're the exception and they can do like 4 to 5, maybe even 6 hours very consistently, but that is going to limit their progress, because you can't do that sustainably. Okay, if you can work 6 hours very consistently, if you're a student right now, do you do that after exams? No, of course not. Does it feel effortless? It has to feel effortless. If working 6 hours a day doesn't feel effortless, the compound effect will never take place and you're not going to get those like top results. Again, I keep on drilling down on the fact that working less amount of hours is productive, because it is. Like, it breaks so many, especially if you're from an immigrant household, it breaks your perception of what you've been told your entire life, that working harder, working longer hours is a good thing. But it's really not. Like, if you go look at billionaires, millionaires, if you go look at people like Alex Hormozi, Hamza, Iman Gadzhi, I'm not only bringing up like, okay, I may not agree with like all of their opinions, but purely based on success, These people have worked like a shorter amount of time. I think Alex Hormozy said he used to wake up at 4 a.m. every single day and do 4 hours of deep work, 4 hours of work towards his business. And over time, the compound effect took place, and now he's a billionaire. I'm not saying that you're going to become a billionaire, of course, but you are going to get exponential results if you have a consistent, predictable work hour time every single day, where you work a few hours per day, but do that consistently. Me and my team are developing this club, which I think, honestly, like, I think that this is the best productivity club you can ever have. Like, imagine a productivity community that will force you to be like consistent in this one productivity tactic, which is waking up early and doing a few hours of deep work consistently. In my opinion, that's the best productivity tactic, and this is the only community that forces, like, that will guarantee that. So by extension, I think that this will be one of the most valuable communities or productivity communities that you could join, and the waiting list is down below. But again, like, if you don't want to join this, just keep in mind that working a shorter amount of time, doing deep work in those hours, but doing that consistently so the exponential effect can take place, is the best mindset to have. Please rewatch this video and rewatch the sections in this video, because I really do think that this is like almost life-changing information for your productivity. Regardless of where you are at right now, whether this be university, GCSEs, A-level, student, building a business, this same mindset towards work is very, very important. And if you want to see more videos on productivity and fitness from a UCL student who is also trying to do businesses on the side and also trying to be a bodybuilder in the future, click on the subscribe button down below. Thank you for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.